Hey everyone, welcome to another tie-in for my series on app development. This time I want to talk about what happens inside of startups once they start building an app and they discover that the best laid plans can often go astray. In fact, always go astray. So please refer to the one that I have on product owners and UX design. But also the session that I did, the tie-in one on the app model canvas, also absolutely required reading. So the pattern that I saw that kept repeating was folks would come with a plan and they would say something like this to me. They'd come to me, I'd be in my startup co-working space with my engineering business, my sign above my head, come to me to get your app built. And they'd say, I've got a great idea for an app. I've got money. I'm going to build this thing. I've got investors, mom and pop, whatever it happens to be. And when the app is finished, it's going to be amazing. We'll make so much money. People will download it and this will happen and that will happen. Unfortunately, what happens, in fact, is that they either crash or they die. What I mean by that is they never get out of the app build process anything like what they'd hoped that they were going to be able to take to their planned launch. And in some ways, that's actually even less heartbreaking than actually launching the app. 50% of software projects, and that includes apps, I think it's even more for an app, they just fail. They never get finished. And it's not a technical problem, it's because they just didn't plan it correctly and because of the things I'm going to outline in this talk. They have to write it off, all the money they've spent. They can't just say, gee, you know what, we didn't use the app, so we're not going to pay for what we ordered and what was built. That's not how it works. You spent a lot on engineering, you've got to pay that bill. Crashing means you get the app, you go to market with it, and nobody downloads it. No revenue comes out of it. People just don't need the app. They don't get what it's supposed to do for them. And not only have they spent to build the app, they've also spent to market it, to get it into people's downloads. And they wind up massively in debt because it costs a lot of money, like, anywhere up to, say, $50, $60 for a download, $10 minimum to actually persuade someone out there to download an app. So what I want to say, the takeaway for this one really is that this picture that folks have where they're looking at this idea that out there is their actual paying customers. There's some combination of features. If you can imagine this being some sort of graph, if you like, and every position on this plane is, some combination of features. And that when they nail that combination, that's where those customers are. X marks the spot, and they're going to actually get those customers to part with real money or generate value in some way, maybe by adverts or subscriptions. Somehow they're going to make that money from those customers. They're starting down there at the bottom left, big brave journey. They set sail with their team on board, and that's their destination. So this is more or less the plan that folks have. Unfortunately, what actually happens is something a lot more like this. So, as I said, in startup land, we're operating in that idea of uncertainty. So there's some process expected where you're going to zig and zag a little bit as you home in on that final sweet spot. However, if you've got a company that doesn't immediately crash and burn straight out of the gate and they start to get some insights, this is typically kind of what they'll see unless there's somebody very steady at the helm providing that guidance. You'll often hear the term product market fit. I'm not a fan of it, to be honest. it's too easy for that to just start becoming PMF and just lose all meaning. I prefer that just the term focus on customers, paying customers. So how do you get to those paying customers? Well, let's have a look at this. All right, I'm a little bit lighthearted here, but this is actually quite typical. So the first leg of their journey, straight out of the gate, they were a little bit off course. They weren't really heading towards those paying customers. They were sort of off beam somewhat. They may have had some ideas about what the features were, but the actual paying customers, that's not where they were heading for. And as they start getting more and more features developed, maybe they get the first build out and they start to see, gee, you know what, this isn't looking so much like what we need to hit that mark. And somebody says, oh, hey, I've heard about some investment. You know what, if we just do this change and we go for that market segment, or we tweak some certain particular part of the app, we're sure to get this investment, and then that'll solve all our problems. We'll have investor money. Problem is, chasing investment that doesn't yet land in your bank. Typically, investors will want you to hit certain milestones. They will require certain behavior, things, OKRs that you actually hit, and then they'll release that funding. So there could be a long time and a lot of backflips that you have to do before you actually get that money. It is not a solution. Customer money is real and investor promises are not. So the team, they didn't really course correct. They went in kind of a completely opposite direction. They decide to straighten up and head towards those paying customers. But then they start running into all these zigzags to try to get the app closer and closer to being able to launch. There's, maybe some regulatory issues if it's a fintech app or a real estate app. There's a bunch of things about truth in advertising and various other kinds of issues with banking. All these problems with privacy. They might have had a patent violation they ran into. All of that can skewer your plans. Now, it's up to you as founders, as app developers, to chart this course and to look forward and actually see these problems before they happen. So let's say they get there, they're past all that, and then some bright spark says, oh, you know what? Every app these days needs AI. That'll save us. So they head off towards some, mystical mirage of, possible savior type stuff. They just hope that somehow sprinkling AI on top of their product, it's going to magically solve all their problems. What they wind up with when they get there, of course, is that is not paying customers. You can have AI, that's a feature. Who asked for it? Who's going to pay for it? So why does this happen? How does it happen? What's the mechanism? The reality is that on board, things look like this. Once you're out at sea, you've started the process with your app, it is a lot harder to actually make those decisions. You're down in the weeds. You're got that limited view of where you're trying to get to. And I've talked in a previous session about the product and UX side. Those are the folks that are going to be pointing the way, trying to say, hang on, this is where we're headed. But they've obviously got that limited view, and you can't get around that because hindsight is 20/20. But when you're down there in the weeds, this is what you can see. And of course, below the line, you've got the folks actually delivering the app. They are going through all of the features that you're sending down, and they're trying to get that forward velocity for your actual app to accelerate in the direction that your product team and your go-to-marketing folks, the marketing folks have determined that product market fit lies in that direction. So the engineering folks, they can't fix that problem for you. It's not going to automatically happen that you somehow get product market fit just because you're going fast. Going fast does not solve problems. You get an iteration or two, but once that stake money burns up, you're stuck. You're going nowhere. So I'm going to shortly do a session about engineering, but obviously engineering cost is one of your biggest, and accelerating your app startup towards that final build that you hope is going to match people's product expectations, that is very, very costly. And it's not just about the engineering cost either. You've got community managers and all the rest of it. So, I've been there with my own startup. We got investor money. We had some awards that we won. Our startup got a Lord Mayor's Prize. There was all sorts of promise. The reality was we just weren't getting anyone to pay for it. I worked 12-hour days down in the engine room building the thing. Again, the direction we'd gone in was not correct, and we didn't have the prospect of actually having anyone download and use the app. I'd like to just mention again that investment is not a solution here. It's just going to be something that's going to cause you to have a boss in your life telling you what to do. So how do you escape this sort of death spiral? I've mentioned that sort of proposition that I used to get from folks when I was in startup co-working spaces, and I would be building apps for people that come to me and they'd say, I have a great idea for an app. So obviously that is wrong. An idea is nothing. And if you say you have an idea for an app, you do not have anything. So you first need to make an actual business plan out of that idea. So I suggest you start with the Lean Business Canvas. It's got that GADI pitch at the bottom. You know how, and that's your problem statement. Well, what we do is, and then that's your value statement, and then your social capital or your proof of how you're actually getting this value into customers' hands so that they can generate profit. And then from there, once you have that, you can work with your other team members to get some sort of mock-up together and just start testing it out on customers. You should look at things like the Airbnb story, and I'll put the links for this down in the show notes. But those folks, they were running around door to door. They were getting data off other people's websites and, actually getting hold of customers. They even apparently sold breakfast cereal at one point, trying to get people to, get involved with the app. And they were actually putting in the shoe leather to go to people with their actual proposition, trying to find what people would actually pay for before they even really had a proper app that was built. And the investor money that they did eventually get was to accelerate something that was already working. I've previously talked about when the app is finished. Remember, my fictitious person was actually based on reality. People would say, I've got an idea, and when the app is finished, they'll make so much money. Now, I've previously talked in these sessions about apps are just not done. That's not how they work. Instead, you've got these development cycles that just continue constantly. There's a flywheel that's happening, and you're constantly prioritizing your features, working with your product owner and your engineering team to decide what that priority looks like. When you ship your app, you've already got a big gap between your expectations and what is actually in the App Store going into people's hands. That's just the nature of it. With a perfect team of 100% brilliant engineers that never make mistakes, that is what's going to happen. And it's because of this situation where you make these guesses, you plot a course, but somehow you wind up going down a dead-end path. I want to talk very briefly about the last point, that these people, remember, that got an idea. they would say, I'll do all this stuff and then, we're going to make so much money. The thing is, these plans go off course and the money doesn't come. So the solution is either have enough in your bank. Remember the picture of the ship with the money supply there that's getting burnt up. You need to have enough of that for the long haul. Ideally 18 months bare minimum, because apps that you see in the store are going to be at least that old. You're comparing yourself to apps that are very mature. But consider this issue that your ideas of how you're going to make money can be wildly off as well. I kind of love this old TV show, Married with Children. There was one particular episode, and I'll put the link down into the show notes for this one as well. But it was one where Peg Bundy decides that she's going to go into business selling makeup. But then Ed finds out that she's actually been buying her own stock. And she says, well, I'm getting all these checks. I saw founders like that too. They would see, dribs of money coming in and they'd be seduced by that. Now, yes, sometimes at the beginning you have to concierge stuff. That means manually behind the scenes making things happen with sort of apps that are like 90% just jury-rigged and duct tape. That's not even real. It's just a static web page and you massage things behind the scenes. That's fine for the 1 or 2 early mock-ups and that market testing, but you can't continue with unsustainable practices. You need to have a business model where you're actually generating more income than you're spending. And it's very easy with the cost of servers, AWS or Google Compute, whatever you're using, cloud costs, marketing costs can be so massive that you're winding up just eating all of your profits. And you see those profits come in. The first time that happens, it is transformative. So I totally recommend doing that. But I will link an essay by Paul Graham down in the show notes. I recommend reading that. Understanding that early unsustainable stuff just can't last very long at all. That research phase, you need to be getting your actual lucrative play out into the hands of paying customers. And how do you tell who's a customer? They are the ones that are paying you. So if you've got tire kickers who are coming along, if only you had an Android app, or if only you had an iPhone app, or if only you did whatever, or you've got, some other sort of distraction that's going to try to pull you off course. You've just got to say, no, this is my plan, this is what we're shooting for, and stay on course. Otherwise, you're burning your supply as you just power ahead on guesswork. I previously also talked in the last session about the cost of making crazy switches in directions. So you can look at your revenue and you can say, oh my God, we've got big problems. We need to make a rapid change. Rapid changes cost a fortune, not just in the terms of money, but they burn your team as well. There's nothing more deflating or demoralizing, and it will cause your team to just quit. You will get, all your engineering team will just say, these guys don't know what they're doing. I'm out of here. So I know of 2 solutions for this problem. The first one, and the one I recommend, is to sell the product before you create the app. As I mentioned, your app is a channel and it's just a way to sell a product that already works. I won't go over that again. I went over it in a previous video. Go watch that. The other way is to have a very, very large stake with very, very patient investors, mum and dads or whatever. And you might need a runway of 5 years before you iterate and eventually land on that customer fit. Atlassian famously, they started getting profits after 3 years. When they say profits, I reckon that would have been operating profits, not them actually being able to draw a salary. By the time you actually have a look at the term EBITDA, EBITDA, that's your earnings that you actually get. And, doing those sums to make sure that you can actually keep running the business. To wrap it up, I would say just avoid any idea that you're doing anything else except focusing on a customer, even if you've got some social enterprise, right? You're going to sell toilet paper, and then with the money, you're going to have sanitation projects in the developing world. That's fine. That's a social enterprise. But if I don't get my toilet paper, you're not going to be able to build, third world toilets, are you? It has to work. So you need to take a business-like approach. Having altruistic ideas is no good if they're not founded in some kind of reality. Often I will hear from people, oh, well, that sounds all very nice, Sarah, but our app is highly technical. There's no possible way that we can, do this thing of going to customers without an app. Let me give you an example of, say, a chat app. Let's say, for example, you're going to build an app and it's going to have chat, and you've got some unique value proposition that's going to make it amazing. You're going to use AI, you're going to do whatever. Well, you can mock that up with just flat HTML, put it onto an iPad, plug in some bogus sort of hack to make the AI stuff sort of work, hard code it, because you're not going to have actual people using it. What you're going to do with this is you're going to put it on an iPad and have just enough of it working to be able to demonstrate it to people so that they can see, oh, wow, that would be great when it's all working properly. You can go into town and you say, oh, hey, do you use chat apps? What do you use? Telegram, Signal? What do you use? Oh, we've got a new AI app that does whatever it happens to do. And you show them and you press a button and it, I don't know, creates a Christmas jingle or whatever it happens to be that you think is going to be great for your app. You'd say, oh, would you like to be notified when it comes out? And you click the email address. And if you get an email address of someone, you say, we're going to have premium membership where you get all of these other things as well. Would you pay $10 for this right now? Special deal, $10 now. It's going to be $50 later. I can sell it to you right now. Here's my, business card, whatever it happens to be, that we're a proper company. You can pay with your credit card, $10. And if you can convince someone to do that right away, you might have something. But if no one is interested and they start running the moment anything costs money, you could have problems. That is a good example of how to demonstrate traction with actual customer money. And it's maybe uncomfortable for folks who are thinking of just taking a technical solution. But I promise you, if you can't sell it in the street, you won't sell it in the App Store. All right, I hope this has been useful. I hope this saves you from disaster. I have been Sarah Smith, and this is Totally a Thing. Please subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.